All right, welcome back to DBTalks Football Podcast. Today we're going to be breaking down Barcelona's 3-1 win away at Elche. And obviously going into this game, it was really important for Barca to win because as we do know that we only have a 1 point lead in La Liga at the moment, and Madrid's only 1 point behind. And tomorrow they do play their game, and it's going to be against Rayo Vallecano. So it's never easy, but again, you'd expect Madrid to win that game and still be only 1 point behind us. But again, it was just really important for Barca to win this game and keep our lead. But obviously, going into this game, Elche, I mean, they were a pretty decent team in La Liga. They're pretty mid-table at the moment. After this game, they're at 12th, and even before this game, they were in pretty poor form. But I've also been watching, tuning into Elche a bit this season, and it just seems really, really good football. So again, we kind of saw that today as well, where they were kind of having a couple good passing plays. But again, they are more possession team. They're not like those defensive-minded teams that drop back as much. So I think that's why today we saw so many chances for both teams, especially Barca. I think we're going to talk about that more. But again, going into this game, it was a must-win for Barca. And yeah, you want to talk about the lines, Prajesh?
Yeah, just talk about the game, going to the game. I mean, your last game was the Copenhagen game in the UCL where Barca would get a pretty good win. You get top eight in the UCL, so I think that gave a lot of positive energy going to the game, and I think I think a lot of the players have been doing pretty well as recently. Like for example, I think De Jong has been pretty good for the past recent games. I think Lamine has been very good as well. So I think the players have good performances. I think definitely just gain more confidence going to a game like this, where, like you said, it's a must-win game to fight more and push more for the La Liga title. And yeah, I mean, going to the game also we have to mention Pedri's still injured and he'll be out for I think a few more weeks. So losing him it's a big concern because I think he's definitely one of the main pieces for Barca when Barca's at its best, where he's super good at controlling midfield, and I think midfield is one of Barca's most important, one of the most important parts of the Flick's Barca system is having a midfield that can definitely control games, control into possession, because Flick's Barca is, even though it's a very attacking minded team, it's very high intense, high energy, it's also very high possession based, where you notice that Barca like to hold on to possession. So that was definitely a key injury. But besides that, I think Gavi's still injured, though I think he's returning slowly, and Christensen is injured with the partial ACL. I don't think we'll see him for a while, a pretty long time. I'm not sure if his season's over exactly, but we won't really see him. So besides that, Barca have a pretty fit squad. So I think the squad going to the game is actually pretty good. And talk about the lineup. So I mean, it's mostly standard. I mean, the keeper Juan Garcia, who's he's always the keeper. And I think with Barca, the keeper is such an important part of the game, and I think with Juan Garcia, who's been super good for Barca this season so far, he's been a very good signing. I think it feels very secure having a keeper like him who can make some pretty crucial saves, and he's a very good keeper at just making insane saves. He's also very smart, where he's good at sweeping, keeping, and rushing, and I think it's good to have a keeper like that. So it's very grateful to have someone like him as a keeper. So he starts, and things have been going well with that. And then the back line has been mostly the same. I mean, the fullbacks are pretty much the same. So Balde and Koundé is the same thing, and center back, so Kubarsi and Eric Garcia. So with the Pedri injury, I know a lot of people probably thought that Eric would have to fill in this spot at the DM role, but I guess not, because that's not really what happened. And versus Copenhagen, he wasn't in the midfield either, so it's a bit of a change. So he's playing center back instead of Jared Martin, who usually plays with Kubarsi. So I mean, yeah, I think Flick likes to really change up the center back pairing, and I feel with a player like Araujo who's coming back, and I think someone like Araujo who can also just improve himself more, he can definitely have a shot at even making the starting center back duo. And the midfield, so I feel like I can't really say that there's a double pivot, because I feel it's not really a standard double pivot in my opinion. I feel like it's kind of like a change in things, from what I noticed at least. So I mean, the midfielders were De Jong, who like I said, like he's recently been very good, and he's like he's the best midfielder for Barca, I'd say. And then the other two midfielders, so Dani Olmo and then Fermin Lopez. So I feel like if you look at the position, I think Olmo plays more deeper than Fermin in this game at least, and Fermin plays more like an attacking mid and almost like I don't know what you would classify Olmo as, but kind of has his feet and the defensive role and attacking role. So there's that, and then De Jong's mainly like the pivot, and like I guess not really good. Holding it for Barca at least, especially with the absolute Pedri, who Pedri definitely had that role as well. But De Jong's also that similar type of player where he likes to always have the ball and he likes to just pass the ball, move the ball around, and just trying to progress the game. And the front three, so Lamine and Rafinha on the wings is pretty standard as well. Those are the two best wingers for Barca and like the best Barca 11. So they both played, and I mean, what can I say? They're two amazing world class players, and I think Lamine coming off, I think a very good performance for Copenhagen. So he's always going to play a lot. I still feel like my only concern with him is just his minutes being managed. I feel like his minutes can be managed a bit better from Flick because he did play a full 90 today. And then Rafinha coming back. Rafinha, we'll talk about more about Rafinha later because he had like a bit of a discomfort thing, but besides that, I think Rafinha just going the game, he brings a different type of energy. I feel like Barca, and I feel like you can definitely notice the difference with a Barca with Rafinha and a Barca without Rafinha. And striker Ferran Torres, who he starts, he was back from injury and he was playing. He got subbed on versus Copenhagen, but now he actually starts. So it's pretty interesting that I see him start, and we'll definitely talk about Ferran later. But yeah, that was the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the lineups, it was kind of interesting to see because obviously Pedri's out and our midfield at the moment, I'd honestly describe it as pretty weak defensively. Obviously, like right now, we're seeing De Jong kind of play as a single pivot, and also with all play more beats like recently, so he kind of plays as almost like a center mid, kind of at times even DM for us. And again, I feel like that's still a bit too weak defensively. And it's a more challenging game. Obviously, like Elche aren't that like kind of level, like that's super challenging for us. But again, I feel like if it's a bigger game, I don't think Flick can play that three midfielder trio because I just feel like it's a bit too weak defensively and physically, honestly, as well. But also with the defense, I feel like again these four are kind of like being run into the ground again because it feels like they're Flick's like four favorite defenders at the moment. But I also do want someone like a Cancelo or Rajo get a chance back in the team because with Cancelo, I mean, he didn't even like play today, surprising to see because I do feel like in a game like this where we hold more possession and it's a more open game, then that would have been better for him to actually work in. But yeah, I just wanted to see someone like a Cancelo get maybe minutes because I do feel like he could thrive in this type of game where we have more possession and we can control the ball more and make more chances. But again, yeah, with the lineup, I just feel like it was really solid. I think again, we did expect to win this game, but going into that first half, I mean, again, it feels like every game we have so many chances early on, and so does the other team. But yeah, we really dominated the ball. I think early in the game we had like around more than 70% possession, and it felt like this was one of the games that even though Elche are a possession controlling team, it would feel like we were gonna dominate the ball much more. And I think we also started like with pretty high tempo. So again, I do feel like it was a big change from the other games where we started slow and kind of very like wasteful with possession and stuff. But I do think like today was much better, and also putting Elche into mistakes, especially down their left side. But yeah, that opening goal, in like within 5 minutes, we saw Lamine Yamal get his goal, and again we saw I think it was Daniel with Yamal, and again we've seen that kind of duo do really well. In recent times, playing much better in that kind of deeper center mid role, and I feel like he's also finding Yamal who knows when to make those runs. So again, I feel like with Yamal he's doing well with those drifting runs inside, and again he just takes it past the keeper calmly, and again a really good finish with his foot into the goal. But yeah, I think with Yamal. I think again seen him play much better in recent form. I feel like his timing is getting much better, like arriving into the box, and we've seen him when he's hugging the touchline. As always, like I feel like he isolates himself too much, and I feel like it kind of reduces himself as a player. So I think yeah, him inverting more is better. I feel like we do see him playing better when he does invert more and go into the box more. But yeah, I just feel like yeah, we really started like on the aggressive front foot for this game, and I feel like we were creating a lot of chances, and again the chances kept going. I mean, there was like Ferran, Olmo, and Rafinha all got shots on target, and Pena was also forced to make a couple like key saves. But I do feel like yeah, it could have been maybe even 3 or 4 nil in the first 30 minutes. But again, we just see like every single game we make so many chances, and it's just we're so wasteful. And even that first half, how many like we had like 4.42 xg, and that's pretty crazy. Like because we really didn't score that much, and we only got 2 goals. I feel like we could have honestly got at least 6 goals in that first half itself. But again, yeah, we know the same story. We missed a lot of chances, and then the other team gets in one chance, and they end up scoring. So, again, yeah, Elche kind of hit back like against the run of play, and again, it's like a long ball kind of attack, and we've seen this kind of low cross work against us so many times, and again, it's who scores. It's Rodriguez who ends up scoring against us, and it just feels like kind of wasteful because we could have been so clear in this game at that moment. And again, being 1-1 is just so surprising at that moment. But again, before halftime, I was sure that we could at least get the lead back because again, we were creating so many chances, and thankfully, Ferraz got that goal. Um, and yeah, I mean, with that goal, I think before that goal, even there was that other Ferran Torres chance where he hit the crossbar and also it hit his head and hit the post again. So again, Ferran Torres is honestly really really frustrating at times. I don't know how he misses so many chances, and also with Firmino as well. I think today also he was missing a lot of like easy chances as well. So I don't know like why a lot of our players weren't really clinical today. But again, I was worried that might cost us later in the game, but thankfully it didn't. Um, but yeah, again, that Ferran goal, I think it was really good. I think again, really like well played, and I feel like Ferran is good at positioning. So it was good for him to have that movement to be able to score that goal. But again, I feel like he is a good poacher in the box, but it's just physically and sometimes also like his finishing from either like in easier spots is kind of frustrating as well to see. But yeah, what were your thoughts on that just first half in general?
Yeah, so I think, like you mentioned, the word frustrating, I think, is a word that you could definitely describe this first half because, I mean, like you said, Barca created so many chances and not only 2 of them got converted and the rest just didn't end up going in. And I feel like that's just it's just frustrating because, goals are what win games ultimately, and, the score is very close. So I feel like there was a chance where, like, missing those goals and those opportunities could have haunted Barca back potentially if the second half didn't go as well. So I feel like, getting that strong lead in the first half could have just secured the game, and I think it would have just made the second half much more relaxing, but that wasn't the case. And I mean, I guess we can talk like a bit about some of the players. So I mean, like with Lamine, I think Lamine's first half was super super good. I think his goal was very well worked, and I mean, I can notice that like when he was one-on-one with Pena tried to I think Pena anticipated that Lamine would try to go through his legs, so he tried to block his legs, block him between his legs by putting his right knee down. But Lamine with his quick decision making was able to he went past Pena instead and got the goal. So it was a pretty good finish. And like you mentioned, Olmo got the assist. So I feel like Olmo has been getting much more better recently and a bit more consistent because I think the one thing with Olmo that a lot of people were talking about was just his inconsistency in both availability but also just performance wise. I think he has games where he gets goals and because it makes the impact, but there's games where he doesn't get the goals and it feels like he's not really having a good game. He's kind of sloppy, and I feel like some games he just isn't that good. So I feel like those games are where it just harms the way Barca played. But I think today in the first half mainly, I think almost was pretty good actually. And you're talking about some other players. I think Ferran was very disappointing. I mean, obviously he got the goal, but the thing is he got so many chances in the first half. I think like 3 or 4 chances, and he only scored one of them, and he was very close to a few of them. So I just feel like that would just it was just frustrating because I feel like if Barca can get a striker who can like, finish chances consistently, Barca will be getting so many more goals and it'll just make some wins easier. So yeah, I still even with Ferran, like I don't think he's really like a proper striker that Barca really need, and like I don't think his profile is really like a poacher striker in the first place. So I feel like there's one thing that Barca really need to just really make sure to like get is like a proper striker to sign, because I think with a proper striker, it would help Lamine. Like I think Lamine's playmaking would be more better utilized by the striker, and I think a lot of the chances that Barca free wouldn't go to waste if Barca get a very clinical striker. So I feel like that's just something I noticed. And with the Ferran goal, the De Jong assist I think was amazing. I kind of mentioned before that I think De Jong recently has been so good, and I think season De Jong has been a good season. I feel like some people don't really talk about him or he's a bit underappreciated, but I think that's just super smart, and just the way he kind of fakes out Pena and the other Elche defender, and plays the ball to Ferran and Ferran to finish. I think that play just super well worked, and I think it just shows how far being super good technically with the ball at your feet just takes you. Because I feel like if De Jong was a bit greedy and took the shot instead of passing it, there's definitely a chance that the ball gets he doesn't get the goal. So I feel like that it's just really nice to have people like that, like players like that who aren't selfish, and they're able to find really creative ways to like play make a goal. And I feel like someone like Pedri is very similar to that, where he really likes to pass and look for like assists and stuff, and his playmaking is also it's very top, it's very elite. And I believe in the in the first half I'll talk a bit about Rafinha, because I think Rafinha didn't have like that great of a game. I think he was like okay, but he had some good moments where he was able to meg the Elche defender and you try to create some chances, try to get some passes in the box. And he had that one chance with a shot where it went just past the post, like a few centimeters, like a meter or so, a few centimeters off the post. But overall, I don't think Rafinha was too good, honestly. But I don't know. I think with Rafinha, I think the thing is just he's a player that shows up when he's needed, I feel, and I think a performance like this it shouldn't take away from the player Rafinha is, because I think he's still a super good player, and I'm sure he's gonna definitely come back and he's gonna become the player he is, like the goal scoring machine and just the offensive threat. But yeah, and then also there's other players to talk about, like I guess like even Fermin, who I think didn't really have the best half and the best game. But yeah, I just think I only think Fermin is too impressive for me. I feel like he also I don't think for me I could really say much, because I just don't think it was anything impressive. I feel like something that for me usually does that. I feel like a lot of times he usually makes some impact, but there's a whole games where he just has like an off game where he's not really doing much. I feel like that was just one of those games. And another player I'd like to mention who I think was very good, honestly, was Balde. I think Balde actually had a very good game, and it was very nice seeing him and Rafinha link up on the left side, because there were so many times where they were playing like 1-2 passes and Balde just accelerates into space, and it was very good seeing that, because I think Elche was open and Barca had so much space to operate, and Barca were able to get so many chances through that, and a lot of great passing from Barca to use that space. So I think it was very well worked. I think Balde was definitely one of the players who would exploit this space like the most efficiently. So yeah, I just think Balde, I think he was honestly pretty impressive today. I think he's like pretty stand-up player for me. But the other players I can't really say much. I don't think they had anything too impressive. I think with Eric, I can't blame him much. I wouldn't really blame him too hard for the first goal, even though it's partially his mistake. I just think it was a good run for the Elche team, so I can't really blame a defender for that when it's a well-worked play from the other team. But yeah, overall, I think the first half it was good because I think Barca played well, but I think at the same time it was very disappointing because Barca didn't really convert so many chances that were created. So I feel like the first half could have easily been like 5-1, 6-1 or something like that, like a high scoring first half, but that didn't really happen.
Also kind of forgot to mention about like Frenkie de Jong's involvement in that Ferran goal. But again, as you mentioned, like the calmness we saw with this midfield, like we don't have like a really defensive pivot. So even de Jong at times was kind of crashing into the box and trying to help the attack. But again, with that assist that he had, I mean, what an assist! I think being able to be composed in that kind of situation in the box when all the defenders are kind of cutting you, and then finding the key pass scores. I mean, it just shows how classy De Jong is as a player. And again, Ferran with that good positioning, I feel like he opens up himself in an open area, and then a good finish to get that second goal. But as you mentioned again, like I feel like before that half, the second half would have been easy 4-1 or 5-1 up. And I just feel like yeah, we wasted too many chances. And also with Rafinha coming off at halftime, I mean, obviously there was rumors that there was a slight knock, so Flick didn't want to take any risks with him. But after the game, it's been said that it's nothing serious with Rafinha, so hopefully he's available soon. But again, we saw Rashford come on, and I feel like yeah, he made a big difference. And with Rashford, I feel like again he's sometimes at times like frustrating. I feel like again we know how good he can be with his shots. We've seen how he has one of the best like shot taking like techniques in Europe. I feel, but again we don't really see that as much. And also like with his dribbling at times, I feel like he's sometimes wasteful. He takes too many heavy touches at times. And also with his finishing, like today we saw that one chance where he was through one on one with the keeper, and again it was a poor finish from him. And we've seen that a couple times in the season. I think again against Madrid in the Supercopa, and also a couple other moments. I think he's been poor at one on one finishing. So I honestly want to see Rashford kind of improve on that kind of aspect. But having an option like Rashford on the bench to come on, I feel like it's so valuable, and we can't undervalue it because last season when we didn't have him, I mean, we saw at times we were struggling to field a proper attack because at times forced to be left wing and stuff. So I think having Rashford at times is just it's so good. But again, he did score that goal today. We'll talk about it. But again, going into that second half, I knew that Barca were gonna keep dominating possession. And, there was gonna be chances for both sides because again, you never know what can happen with the Barca defense. If the other teams get one chance, it's really easy for them to score. So again, we saw a lot of chances being created from both sides, but I do feel like Joan Garcia was kind of called upon at times in the game. But I think yeah, I think he made a couple of really good saves, so to keep us in the game. But again, we saw Rashford. I think he came on and then to make it 3-1. Rashford obviously got that third goal, and I think with that goal, I mean, we obviously see um, Rashford kind of be slipped in, and finally, after like so many chances being missed, we saw Rashford finally be able to score. And I just feel with that goal, it just kind of ended the game. And at times before that goal, we were kind of playing with fire because you know yes, we were only 2-1 up, and yes, we were creating so many chances, but we even saw in that Real Sociedad game similar to that, where we creating so many chances. We could have been up by so many goals, but we ended up not being clinical enough, and we ended up dropping points in that game as well. So again, if we did drop points in this game, again, it would be so frustrating because we really deserve to win this game. And thankfully, Rashford got that goal. Um, and I think again, Yamal was really involved in this goal, and he does really well to keep the ball in play. And at the, I like when the VAR was reviewing it, at times I thought it was like maybe outside, but again, really well done from Yamal to keep it in. And yeah, he just does really well to get it into Rashford, and thankfully it just falls to Rashford and another like good finish to just put Barca 3-1. And I feel like that goal gave us like the comfort to get the win and management to the last whistle. So again, it just kind of showed that after that goal, Barca kind of slowed things down. We were kind of just holding on to possession, a lot of more safe passing, and it just felt like Elche were trying to get a couple of late set pieces and stuff, but nothing major. So I do feel like, but after that third goal, the game really calmed down. It felt like there was a lot of like less pressure on the players and team in general. But yeah, I just feel like it was much better. But yeah, what were your thoughts on that second half overall?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like in the past few games, Barca had games where the second half was much better than the first half. But I feel like this case, it wasn't really that drastic of a change. I think the first half was good, and I think second half was also good as well. Because I think both the halves Barca created a lot, and like you said, very close to scoring. And similar to both halves, I mean, both halves Barca weren't able to really finish too many of the chances. So yeah, but I just think I think I wouldn't say the second half was it wasn't much of an improvement because I feel like it was mostly the same. I think Barca was doing the same things, but one thing I noticed, I think Elche was more threatening in the second half. I think they had a lot of chances as well going forward where they looked kind of threatening, and they had some very good players as well. So I feel like the second half, I feel like Elche are actually improving. But yeah, I mean, what you mentioned with the Rashford sub, I mean, I think with the Rafinha thing, I think Rafinha going off wasn't too huge of a concern because I feel like he wasn't having too good of a game. So I feel like having Rashford, having fresh legs on for the second half, with a player who's known for impact and is very good off the bench, and he's a very good player, Rashford. So I think it wasn't. I think I felt kind of comfortable with it. I think it was fine. And I mean, the only thing was that I wasn't sure how Balde and Rashford link up because I feel like we've only seen it a few times, but not too much. And I think in the first half, Rafinha and Balde were working very well together. So yeah, but I mean, just going in the second half, I think Barca still played well, and like I said, I mean, a lot of chances created. I think Lamine had a very standout second half. I think he was one of the main people that was just creating so many chances, and I think it was super impressive. I think Lamine took his game like a step forward. I feel like recently he's been super insane, like on a whole new level, and I think a lot of people, I think a lot of, like even Madrid fans and stuff like appreciating him and calling him like a generational talent and a generational player, and I feel like it's very special and very so it's a privilege to watch Lamine week in week out, just watching him because I feel like he gives so much joy, and I think today just super well. And I love the way he played today, and he was very close to scoring as well. I think he also missed some chances, and there were chances where he passed the ball and be unselfish, and then the chances missed, and it's just kind of frustrating to see like all these chances go to waste because I feel like the chances created themselves just super well done by Barca, and I feel like this game particularly was just super creative from all the players, and I feel like it kind of sucks to see like those chances not be converted because I felt like having a very high scoring game in Barca. Then it's the game, so I feel like we can't really say much now that's over. And yeah, I mean he even worked super well with the Rashford goal to find Rashford, and he really got the assist because it hit a Elche player, but either way it was Lamine's work that kind of created like goal anyways. But yeah, I mean it was still kind of weird to see Barca only score 3 goals after that because I feel like I don't know. I feel like Barca could have scored way more, and I feel like the 3-1 doesn't reflect the entire game because I think Barca was just super dominant. I mean, we kind of saw like the whole XG that Barca like 6 point something, like 6.45 XG, which is the highest recorded XG in a Liga game ever since like they started recording data. So I mean that's a pretty crazy stat, and I feel like. Yeah, I think that just shows how dominant Barca were today and how good the attacking football was. And then I'm sure Hansi Flick is super disappointed because even with the win, I feel like it's just kind of frustrating to see that to not get all those goals and to not get that dominant victory. I feel like Flick is kind of concerned because at the same time it's like, if this was an opponent like in the UCL, like a strong opponent, and you're not creating chances, then it's going to cost probably the game. So I feel like Barca needs to finish the chances no matter what the team is, and I feel like that's just super important for any great team to just be super consistent at doing stuff like goals. So yeah, but the other things I noticed in the second half, I think Bernal when he came on, I think Bernal had a pretty good cameo, and I think Bernal lately has been pretty impressive. And I think when he was in the pivot with Casado, I think that was when I don't think he was that good, but I think when he's coming off the bench and he's just playing these minutes. I he's like 20, 30, 40 minutes. I think he's actually been pretty solid, and I think he's a good player to come off the bench as a midfielder. And I mean, because I think with the stuff with Pedri now, like he's getting a lot of injuries. Like, got 2 injuries so far this season. I feel like Pedri's minutes definitely advantage. I think having a midfielder like Bernal who can play a good role, and he play well with De Jong. I think that's super important to have, and I think he can be reliable. So I think. A lot of trust goes into him. And I mean, besides that, I don't really think there were any other any impactful subs as Rashford and Bernal because I don't think they did much. I think Araujo was he's okay. He didn't really do much. He came on more later of the game, like the last minutes. Same with Casado, so I can't really say too much about them. But I mean, the overall game, I think I kind of described it. I feel like, I mean, Elche also had some chances where they were very close, and look, they missed their chances. But still, I think it was a very, very unnecessary to let unnecessary for Barca to let this game this close. Because I think if Elche scored their chances, it could have Barca could honestly drop points this game. So yeah, I just feel like it's a weird performance. It's hard to comment on like this performance because I feel like even if the win is like achieved, just the performance is just like it's hard to see like these goals not go in and then Elche coming pretty like dangerous in the second half where they're very close and they play some very well plays. So yeah, I mean yeah, I guess that's what I have to say for the second half.
Yeah, like you mentioned it, like the having we had over 6 XG this game, and it's just frustrating couldn't score. I mean, even like at least 6 goals because I think we could have easily scored so many goals. I mean, Flick honestly scored like a great game where we could have scored something easily, but again, it's kind of down to the players being not clinical enough. But again, I just have to credit Flick because we've seen how dominant his attacking kind of tactics are, and it feels like in games he can just easily like dominate another team. And over six xg is just crazy to see, and I feel like we could have done much better with our performances, like shooting wise, and we could have scored so many more goals. But yeah, as you mentioned, like if we do play our tougher opponents, and we don't convert our chances, it could come to bite us back like later on. So I do feel like we do have to improve on that aspect. But I think the improvement we saw from that is that we started off on the best. I think in games we've seen recently that we really start off sloppy and then kind of build back into the game in like the second half, especially. But yeah, I do feel like that was good to see that today. We started off strong and we also like ended off pretty strong. But I think for my man of the like match and top performers, I'd honestly give man of the match to Yamal. I feel like again Yamal got that early goal, and I feel like again we're seeing him get back to like higher levels because he's been winning like so many. He's been doing his dribbles. Today he created 8 chances in the game. So again, I feel like if he has like a striking partner that can convert goals, someone like a Holland, someone like just as prolific as Holland or someone like that, I feel like we could see so many more assists for Yamal. We could see so many goals for Barca in general. And I feel like again we do have to look into that department for the transfer window because Ferran Torres as your starting striker, I don't know if that's the best situation. And obviously an aging Lewandowski, that's not really ideal. So again, that's one of the main positions we have to look into. But yeah, I'd give my man of the match to Yamal. I think also another honorable mention is De Jong. Again, in Pedri's absence, we've seen how he's becoming more of our main controller for the team, and he got that really good assist today. So again, I think he's an honorable mention to for this game, especially. And my third honorable mention, I think you mentioned early on, Balde. I think again this was one of Balde's best performances this season, and I think again we've been missing this in recent form because we haven't seen him invert as much in recent times, and we know how like threatening he can be when he kind of just carries the ball and like inverts into the midfield, and it just feels like it opens up so much more space for our attack. And I feel like I want to see that from Balde much more consistently because we know he can do it like at a very high level, but it just this season we haven't really seen that as much. But I do feel like Balde was an honorable mention for this game. But again, I mean, with this game, I feel like the main like struggle was that where we were wasting, we were missing a lot of chances, and at times we were kind of playing with fire. But I do feel like we did get the win. That's the most important thing I feel. But again, we did play some good football the game. But yeah, who were your man of the match and top performers?
Okay, yeah. So you already, I think you said it pretty well. Like the outstanding players and the struggle that Barca really have because I kind of think it's pretty similar. So yeah, for the man of the match, I'm gonna give it to Lamine Yamal because I think this was like a generational performance by Lamine Yamal. I think definitely was the best player on the pitch, and he was super good with the chances created, like attacking wise. I think he was like definitely the best attacker and like the main outlet for creating chances, and also just being threatening. And so I think he was definitely. I would give him man of the match because I think throughout the entire game he was super good. But yeah, De Jong would be my like second place. I think he was very good as well. And I think he's super important for Barca. And I mean, I know so many people that like want De Jong out and think he's like should be sold and stuff. I really disagree with that. I feel like De Jong is super good, and I think like he should play his last years at Barca if he can, or just play for a few more seasons. But I think he still can be super important for the team as a leader. I think he's definitely improved as a leader. But yeah, and yeah, Balde also I think has been good, and then I think Olmo's also someone who's been good as well, and maybe even Bernal. Like I think his cameo was just, to me at least, I think it was something that Barca kind of needed. I think it's just good having a midfielder who's just good. I really like the genre of midfielders that Barca usually have, which very good, technically gifted, technically very good, very sound, very good midfielders who can control the ball well. So yeah, and then just with my takeaways, I mean, I think this game can show a positive where Barca create all these chances, and it's super nice to see Barca create these chances. But the struggle is just the creation. I feel like a lot of times it's kind of like things that are creative where sometimes it's just hard to score like a goal. Like for example, I think it was the first half where I forget who passed it to Olmo. I think it was Rafinha. He gave across to Olmo or the ball. I think it was Rafinha or Balde. I don't remember who exactly. I'm thinking Rafinha though, but I think Rafinha passed the ball to Olmo, and the ball was at the same time. It was like coming very fast, and Olmo, his body wasn't wide, so it didn't give him enough time to really go wide and get the perfect shot of where he actually wanted to go. And then when he hit it, it went wide. So I feel like that's just a hard chance to score because that's just like a moment where the game's so fast paced and the ball's coming right at you, and I think like for like a normal human, like it's kind of hard to the perfect shot of unless you're like, I don't know, unless you're like super used to a situation. I feel like Olmo sometimes he can be a bit rigid with like his shots because I mean I don't know. I just think something I noticed is that Olmo can be a bit consistent with the shooting because sometimes he's very like good at shooting and he'd be like on target, but sometimes he feels a bit rigid. But yeah, I think like chances like that are hard. Even if for me, I forget what chance exactly, but he has a chance and the ball is like kind of like bouncing, so I feel like those chances are just super hard to score in the first place. So sometimes the chances that are created are just like kind of hard to score for like a player. And I don't think you can set too high of an expectation for like these Barca players because because like for players like Fermin and Lamine who are just super young players, they're not like that like years and years of experience and just work in like big games like so many like La Liga games and all. So I feel like you can't expect them to always score every chance they get. But yeah, it's just I feel like it's like sometimes it's just like the nature of the game. It's just hard to score some chances. But another positive, just I think the midfield has been good, and I think De Jong's been a super, he's been super. He's the main contributor for that. I think he's like one of the main reasons because with Pedri's absence, which is such a huge loss, I think De Jong's definitely stepped up and he's been super good for Barca. I think I would honestly say he's been a top 5 player for Barca this season, and I mean I don't know if like, a lot of people agree with that, but I feel like he's super important. So that's like something I would say, and yeah, I think I'm very happy with Balde. I think Balde was super good, and I think hopefully he can keep this consistent because I feel like some games Balde doesn't really have this much impact, and sometimes he doesn't get the ball as much, and he doesn't make these like runs where he's like accelerating and stuff, but I think whenever he does that, he's just super threatening and just helps the attack more. So I feel like if he does that more, it can help Barca definitely create because I think he is capable of just just drifting past the whole midfield with his pace and just his ball carrying. So I feel like that's just such a good asset to have. It's kind of bit about Koundé because I think Koundé didn't have a good outstanding game either. And I think he kind of just was disappointing at times. I feel like with Koundé, it really is it's kind of hard because last season Koundé was super consistent, super good. And I feel like really no complaints about Koundé, but this season he's like one of the weaker players, and I feel like a lot of teams try to exploit his side. So I feel like it's just a bit of weakness for Barca at this point where if Koundé's not playing well, Barca can be weak on the right side. So I don't know. I feel like with the right back position, there needs to be something to change, like an improvement from Koundé's end either, or I don't know if Flick will try to play Eric more right back and Araujo playing center back or something like that. I'm not really too sure, but I just feel like that needs to be a bit addressed because I feel like going to the UCL now. I mean, we already saw the UCL draw and the possible opponents and all. I mean, Barca have some pretty I say strong and tough opponents to play in the UCL, so I feel like can't really keep on experimenting. I feel like going later this season, I feel like he's had a set team, a team that's super good consistently, and a very strong team, so that Barca can play any team and put up a strong performance. So yeah.
like see Barca win 3-1. And again, even though we won 3-1, that's a pretty good scoreline to win by. But knowing us Barca fans, like kind of frustrating to see that because we could have scored so many goals, and I feel like at times our team is just frustrating in games like, clinically. But again, I'm just happy that we won the game. I think again going away to Elche is like not that easy. You can never take it for granted. But again, I feel like it's important to get that win. And obviously today we saw Yamal shine. I think Rashford had a good like performance as a super sub. And obviously at this point in the season, Rashford is already up to double digits in assists and goals. So he has 10 goals and 10 assists. So that's really good to see. But again, there's always things that in Rashford's game that he can like improve to become even better. And the thing with Rashford is he's not a starter, so you can't really judge him as a player like fully because he only gets like subbed most of the time under Flick in recent form. So again, I feel like even as a sub, he's having a big impact in the team, so that's good to see. And obviously also Dion, I think he was really good today. But just the overall finishing from the squad in general was kind of a question mark for this game. But again, I think it's encouraging to see that we can still like create so many chances. And obviously, our next game and our next fixture on Tuesday is going to be against Albacete. That's going to be really interesting to see because obviously they're the team that knocked out Madrid in the Copa del Rey. So again, there's going to be a lot of eyes on that game. I know a lot of Madrid fans are going to be hate watching that to like maybe hope that Albacete also defeat Barca. But again, if that happens, both I mean they're going to troll us so hard. So again, I feel like it's going to be important to see Barca do well in that game. Obviously, carrying on our form continually, but I feel like for that game, we obviously saw Kunde come off like in this game, kind of with the knock, so he might be slightly out of the squad for a bit. And I think that honestly that's the best thing for him because I think he's just playing too much football at the moment. So I feel like either fatigue or he's just out of form. I feel like there has to be a point where Flick just takes him out of the line for some time. And obviously with Cancelo, that's kind of what he's here to do. So I want to see Cancelo in the lineup a bit more, or maybe even just push Eric at right back at times. So yeah, let's see what happens with that. But again, wrapping up the podcast. I mean, obviously, great win today. I think Yamal's honestly picking up form at the right part of the season. And obviously, on our podcast, he said like the second half of the season is where I'm gonna start picking up form like really much. So I think he's showing us that he is gonna be doing that. So that's good, really good to see. But obviously, listeners, I mean, let us know. Do you think Rashford would be better as a starter at the moment? With obviously like Rafinha being out for like a couple of a game or so because he come off with a knock. So let us know about that. But again, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on all social media. But thank you for listening and goodbye.
Bye.